Oh, that wasn't so bad. How are you?
Uh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I've had better days, but I've also had worse days. So I'm much better now that it's nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It
I'm
was
a vampire.
it,
So,
it was a long one for me. I have recently begun fighting yeah, a genetic disposition towards just horrible diabetes. Uh,
um,
After an entire life of being reasonably healthy, suddenly I'm taking 4 shots a day and
oh shit.
managing what I'm eating, and it's
Oh,
kind
am
of
I supposed to watch my language?
no, no, that's all right. We won't. What I'm gonna do is lift the sound from this video and edit and condense the relevant stuff, and uh, everything else will get cut. But I like to do this as a conversation
Good.
because
That's fine.
uh,
That's fine. I don't generally watch my language.
I'm not. Don't worry about your language one little bit. I
Oh,
have to say, and this will probably be off the record, although I want to talk with you a little later about El Sprague de Camp. Um, After listening to the DeCamp album, I will say
quite a disappointment, huh?
I really enjoy your first album very much. But I get the impression that, and this is all inferred from context, from what's in my head. Um, I get the impression that having DeCamp do this was part of the deal to acquire the rights.
No, no, it wasn't. I'm forgetting how it came to be exactly. I think I must have written him a letter or something. I don't know. I was corresponding with him and Lynn Carter and Michael Moorcock, all in that same period. I want my one of my ambitions was to put Elric on record, do the same treatment.
Oh,
Uh,
that would have been
that
fantastic.
would have been fantastic and a lot harder.
Yeah.
Um, just the way Moorcock wrote, it didn't. The Robert E. Howard stuff just translated to dialogue and a screenplay very easily. The Moorcock stuff, one would have had to do a lot more work, which I don't
How
know if I would have been up to. But at any
very
rate, I think I just wrote him a letter and probably asked him to if he wanted to narrate. I might even have some of the correspondence someplace. I
cool.
don't know. I didn't look for it.
I have a place in the program for that for the pieces on that album, and I will run them, but I'm not going to put them. How do I put this? I would not, from a standpoint of programming, take a piece from this
Right.
and a piece from this
And run them
and
back to
play
back.
them back to back. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Um, the I don't know. I guess it's funny now. All during the recording, I kept encouraging him essentially to act and to, get excited and emote and, put emphasis on things. And he just either wouldn't or couldn't. And then afterwards, when he actually heard the recordings, he said, "Yeah, I guess I could have put a little bit more into it," or something to that effect. And it is what it is. So,
It's I had a very interesting conversation yesterday, and it's very interesting that you mentioned Lynn Carter, um, with Finn JD John, who's the proprietor of a business called Pulplit Productions. And what they do is they take people like Clark Ashton Smith and Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, and they basically represent them with a little bit of scholarly work in audiobook editions, among other things. And
mhm.
he was talking about DeCamp kind of gets to wear the black hat these days, but without him, it's hard to imagine that Conan would be as big a part of the modern vernacular
Oh,
as it is. So he's
oh
got
no,
a
he
place.
he certainly helped popularize it, and I mean, whether it was from an artistic point of view or a commercial point of view, probably both. He thought, well, like this stuff should be, you know, out there in the public more so than and whatnot. I don't know if how much he had to do with the Marvel, you know, creation of Conan. because that's what propelled it for me. Uh,
Right.
I
That
had a roommate who stuck a Conan comic book in front of my face, and I hadn't read a comic book in since like junior high school, and suddenly I was, immersed in comic books again.
And if I remember right, among other artists, that was well, that was your cover artist. I'm
Conrad,
trying to remember who that was.
yeah,
I'm
Conrad.
sorry about that. Um, but that was also Neil Adams, if I remember correctly, did a lot of that at
Oh,
Marvel.
well, Neil did the cover for the what was it, the Power Records version of
Oh,
Conan?
that's right. That's right. Matter of fact, this is Tim Conrad. You
Tim
said that,
Conrad,
but
right?
I need to say it a few
In
times.
fact, Tim contacted me at one point and said, he had submitted the drawings for it, and then he contacted me saying he was looking at him again and wasn't pleased with the way he represented him. Essentially that was bad art from his point of view, and asked me, he wanted to withdraw it, and I said, too late. It's already at the pressing plant. You know. Oh
It's
well.
honestly, it's not as particularly the Howard album. The art is not bad. It's
Oh, that one is great. The
oh
first
yeah,
one.
the
Now I'm
this
talking
one.
about the second one
Uh,
with just the silhouetted images or whatever.
Honestly, given the whole package, it kind of fits the album pretty nicely. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Um,
And he was one of my best friends at the time, and we've had a parting of ways, but he was the one who did the photograph of DeCamp, a fellow named David Siegel, who also was known for doing a fair amount of Hendrix and the Doors, and other rock stars. In fact, he brought um, Chuck Berry to our house once.
oh,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah,
Um,
that was an enjoyable evening.
of all the weird things, I was friendly for a number of years with Peter Simon. Um, Peter was very
It's Charlie's
interested.
brother.
Yes, who also did an awful lot of photography, particularly of the Grateful
Right,
Dead, uh,
right, right, right.
Bob Marley. So that's just a neat connection to draw there. But I had mentioned Lynn Carter. Finn John was telling me we talked a little while last night, and we were talking about Howard and DeCamp, and the subject of Lynn Carter and his Green Star books came up, and the fact that they were so interesting as books. I mean, they were short. The Green Star books, they were about yay thick, um, but that they were, and a lot of other subject material written by Carter was pastiches of Edgar Rice Burroughs and John Carter, so it's just he had mentioned that his mother. He was so excited because his mother had mentioned that she actually went to college with a very well known writer, and it turned out to be Lynn Carter, and he
Well,
was something like, "Oh gosh, Mom, don't you know any good authors?"
I was taken up with the Fafhrd and Gray Mouser series, and that's what I wanted to put on. Again, as a radio serial, I think, and was corresponding to Lynn about that. And none of these things ever came to fruition. I mean, the evolution came. I had to sell these albums and started selling them through Marvel Comics. And one of my best friends from high school, a fellow named Dave Belmont, was one of the original comic book dealers, mail order. And I remember going to his house in high school and going down to his basement, and he just had these shelves of comic books, piles of comic books. And he used to drive from Rochester, New York, down to New York City, once a month for Phil Seuling's monthly comic book shows, and came from there. And at any rate, Belmont, through a series of events, I mean, we ended up splitting a collection. And I said, I want all the Conan stuff. And I specialized in just selling Conan for a while until finally I became a full-fledged comic book dealer, and it sort of set the audio productions aside.
You're actually, I've my video quality is not as good as I would like, but I'm noticing you're wearing a Moondance Comics
Yes.
t-shirt. Uh,
purposefully.
how uh, bearing in mind that this will be on the radio and the listeners can't see it, it's neat to see you wearing that. How long has it been since Moondance since they made those shirts, let's say?
Well, okay, so I did the Tucson Comic Con 2 years ago, and I made up a few shirts for that.
Okay, very
I
good.
think three shirts, one for each day of the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's cheesy, inkjet printing. And if you could see it better, you'd see it. It's maybe you can see it here. It's all kind of crumbling and
Oh, I
uh,
see that.
it's got patina.
But I really like the logo. That's and it's a neat name. I fished around on YouTube, and there are actually a handful of videos of people hanging out at Moondance Comics in the Northeast from back in the day.
I
Um,
think at the Hadley store, the Hampshire Mall store.
yep, that's the one that I've seen. Uh,
Right. And Kevin Eastman was just in town for the Tucson Comic Con again. And I was gonna go, and I decided not to because it was hot out and it was always a hassle or whatever. But Eastman and Laird used to come to that store, and this is when the Ninja Turtles were, black and white, adult comic books, and
yep.
they would, come and set up a table and sign their stuff and sell their wares and all this kind of whatnot. So I was gonna go remind Kevin that I was, part of the whole thing, but I never made it. Oh
It,
well.
did you ever have any dealings with Dave Sim?
I know him. Did I have any? I don't think I had any business dealings with him. I just had social interactions with him.
Dave
I
is,
don't. Did I tell you that, one of my very closest friends is Steve Bissette,
you did.
Swamp. Right. And Dave and Steve were very close. In fact, I think it was one of those days when the Eastman and Laird were doing signings, but it was also we had a guest artist, Bob Layton, who was doing Iron Man at the time. He came to the store and did a signing and a guest appearance and whatever. I think we took him on a whirlwind tour of either two or three stores, and he met all those guys and whatnot. And we had a nice dinner and blah blah blah. And
It's funny, we could probably talk about classic comic book folks forever. Dave Sim is my personal hero because at a time when comic book conventions were literally about comic book creators, and Dave was a rock star.
yes,
This would have been 87, 88. Tiny little convention in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where there were no celebrity guests. It was just authors. It was Marv Wolfman, Dave Sim, Colleen Duran was there, and oh gosh, who else was there? Piers Anthony was there of all people. And Dave, of course, at the time had a reputation. Part of the reason he was such a rock star for being a bad boy, for walking off stuff he didn't like and speaking his mind. So we're all hanging out. There's 17, 18-year-old me, who's come all this way to get about a half dozen Cerebus books autographed, and Dave is sitting there doing the autograph in the hotel lobby because they really hadn't, conventions weren't organized back then. They just sort of threw everything together in a room and you did what you did. Um, and Dave got up and said, "I'll be right back, guys." There were only about six of us left, and he came back down and brought storyboards for like the next three issues that he was working
wow,
on of Cerebus, and spent like 2 hours with us. And the first thing we said when he said, "You know what? I'll be right back," and got up and ran off was, "We'll never see him again."
that's what I was wondering or thinking when you mentioned it.
But interpersonally, person to person, Dave was just a neat guy to
Yeah,
hang around with. He was fun.
yeah. I can't say that I know him that well. I'm sure it's been close to 40 plus years since I've seen him.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was early 80s,
It's
sure.
been yeah, it's been a long time since I bumped into.
God, it's like 60 years.
Yeah. And conventions have changed so much. I mean, nowadays the comic book artists are in the dealer's room, you know? They're not they're the autographs are all getting signed in a different place, and it's celebrities, and I don't mind it. We did the inaugural Comic-Con cruise last year, and we're going to do it again this year because we had so much fun. But I think Joe Wos was probably the biggest name in comics on the boat.
Man, I'm not familiar with that name, but
Joe's doing what's the show called? Cartoon Academy, which I think is kind of up in the air right now because of everything going on with PBS and NPR.
I see. Okay.
But
I am completely out of the comic book field. It's aside from, trying to sell some of my old stuff or whatever. But I really overdosed with it back in the late 70s, early 80s. And
it's really hard for me to get invested like I was back in the day. I mean, you never read more voraciously than you do between, say, 12 and 30. And as you get older and your eyes give you trouble and you lean on things like audiobooks, comics just kind of tend to wander away from you.
right.
And
Well, I mean, I started, it was 1991 when I started first run video, and running a video store killed my reading habits. I would bring home a movie every night, and
yep,
that was not only my pleasure, but it was also my homework.
yeah,
And a lot of the stuff I was watching were screeners, these preview things to you know say yay or nay to, and if so, how many and whatnot.
I remember working in a video store back in the early 90s, before before the big crash, and yeah, it was always screeners because you had films you could watch before anybody else could watch them.
Exactly.
Bringing home whatever you can get your hands on. Um, and I should probably pause for a second here and say, for the sake of the recording, and I don't know that I've asked, do you prefer Steen or Stein?
Dean,
Steen, very
thank
good.
you for asking.
Oh, well, I would hate to say it 52 times on the radio and say it wrong every single time.
It's good. I mean, the funny part about that one is my grandmother last name was Goldstein when she married my grandfather, who was a Goldstein. The two of them, at least from the best of my knowledge, were not related. Um, but and she got married when she was 16, I know. So, and you shouldn't mix, as a little kid, you couldn't mix up which family you were talking about or mispronounce it. Otherwise, you were corrected. And
Right.
so, but whatever. I mean, everybody came from the same area in Eastern Europe, which is now Vilnius, in Lithuania.
Hmm.
But depending on what year you looked at the map, it was either Russia, Poland, or Lithuania. And so, you know, some of them got out before World War One, some of them got out, prior to World War Two or afterwards or whatever. So, anyway.
And that is
And it wasn't the last name. They were assigned that last name at Ellis Island.
right, right.
So
Um, what I'm not sure where to. Oh, I, I have no doubt that there are probably 100 interesting stories surrounding that in particular, surrounding coming through Ellis Island and those names. And you're absolutely right. You do have to differentiate. You have to know who you're talking about. Um, but where was I? Oh, I was just going to say I should break for a second and say, which I can edit and bring back to the beginning of the interview when the time comes. I should probably say my guest this evening is Alan B. Goldstein, who
right.
is responsible for some of the material that we're playing today. Um, and from there, we can continue our conversation. I can just bump that to the beginning and we can
Okay.
talk. But
And something you should know about my name. It's like I use the moniker Alan B. That
mhm.
was my nickname all through high school and college and for years afterwards. People would just either call me Alan B or just B. And in high school, there were two Alan Goldsteins. And for whatever reason, started putting my middle initial on the papers, and it started off with people teasing me and making fun of me about it, but it became Alan B. And then I was in a, garage band at that point, and then another guy was, sort of again mocking me and said, "So what do you call your band?" Alan B. and the Bombers, and our whole little clique got to be known as the Bombers.
Bombers. Oh, that's fantastic.
Right.
I
So
love
anyway, I
that.
use it as my nom de plume, so to speak.
So, if I might ask, when we began working on these records, and this is going to be, we're doing this show on the 26th of September so that we can squeeze it into September because we're looking at the 50th anniversary of the production of the first record.
Right.
Um, and um, when we spoke earlier, you sort of told me a little bit about how this all came together, but because we live in a very interesting age when rights and copyrights and trademarks are rarely understood, and it's almost entirely the reason we do what we do at the radio show. Um, you had to acquire the rights to Conan at the time.
Right.
Today, today it's pretty much all in the public domain. The characters in the public domain. Howard's original stories are in the public domain, but that's a recent transition. You actually had to go to, oh gosh, what was it called? Conan Properties.
No, 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 no. I did not have to go to Conan Properties at that point. They came in the picture much later. I wrote a letter to Glenn Lord, who was the executor of Robert E. Howard's literary estate, and uh, essentially just asked him if I could, put him on. It was radio at that point. I wanted to do the radio series, and he wrote me back saying, "Sure." And I forget I had produced um, pilot shows for a science fiction serial, which again never got off the ground, something called Brainstorm. And I must have sent him cassette copies, I think, but just to show that I could do this type of thing. And
That's interesting.
frankly, I don't remember whether I did or didn't, but I can't imagine just by virtue of me writing a letter, he would say, "Oh, sure, go ahead." And we worked out a deal. And I'm not that I can recall what it is. I probably should have looked for all this paperwork before this interview, but I didn't. Um, and I think I might know where it is, maybe. Um, but yeah, but I mean, he told this 20-something-year-old kid, "Sure, go ahead. What the hell?"
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
And
I
how I don't even remember how I got his address. Whatever. But I ended up writing him and then subsequently meeting him. In fact, he was in the hospital the first time I met him, and I went when he was being discharged, and it was really awkward for me because there I was with his wife, and I think it was just a wife and him, and we went out to a restaurant, and it was my introduction to what is it, langostinos, those little lobster-like things.
right.
And he was, I think he must have been around Houston. Or God, I wonder if I still have him in my contacts. Um, let's see. Nope, I don't. Oh well. But uh, was it Irving, Texas? Maybe might have been. I can't recall, but someplace in one of the Houston suburbs. Um, so.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, that's kind of fascinating. But good on you for taking the initiative because you produced a really, really well put together album that I'm going to be absolutely thrilled to put on the air. Um, and I'm very interested in the brainstorm thing because most of what we do is old science fiction radio. We
It's
run a lot of X minus one.
it's lost.
Mhm.
Uh, I haven't heard it in again 50 some years. Um, It probably exists on some reel-to-reel tape in my garage, and it's been sitting there and disintegrating for the last 50 years.
Which stories did you select?
Oh, for Brainstorm?
Yeah.
Oh, it was all original. It was original
Oh,
audio.
wow. That's
Uh,
fantastic.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
That wasn't a great story, but whatever.
So,
And you see, maybe a little history is in order. Um, I'm living in Vermont, pretty new to Vermont. I think I was there about, this is my second year. I had just teamed up with my girlfriend, about to be my wife. Um, and we were living in this little cabin on top of a hill on top in North Wind Road. It was, at any rate, the radio station out of University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Every night, I think it was at 11 o'clock, they used to run like a 5 minute segment from the fourth tower of Inverness. And then on either Friday night or Saturday night, they had a recap of the whole week and then it continued the thing. And it was this amazing radio serial. And it was produced by ZBS Media, ZBS standing for Zero Bullshit. And they were in Fort Edward, New York, which isn't that far from
hmm,
where I was living in Vermont, Wilmington, Vermont. And we got so involved and enthused with this radio drama. I mean, it literally changed our lives, or at least my life. And and at one point, I went to visit the people because I was so impressed with it. I'm forgetting I don't know if I had learned that I wasn't going to be rehired the next year from my teaching job at that point or not, but I remember driving home after having a really enjoyable afternoon at this. It was sort of a commune. They had a recording studio and they had a farm and everybody chipped in and did this and did that and very free spirited this back in the mid 70s and on driving on the way back to my house, I was thinking I could do that, and that's what s- started it all. And that's when I started writing Brainstorm and recruited some actors, and we went to ZBS and recorded it, and um, it wasn't great, but and it was nowhere near the production that the Conan album was. But the Conan album I could sink my teeth into. And, plus, I mean, it was good stories and written by professionals. And I had Roy Thomas helping me with one of the scripts. And
oh yeah,
actually, I went to the Comic-Con in Tucson, not this year, but the year before, because Roy Thomas was there. And, I met up with him and he signed one of the albums for me, which one of the ones I'm keeping.
very good.
One of the ones I pulled out, no, I didn't. I pulled out number 1494.
The
So,
Howard stuff lends itself to this sort of thing
oh, yeah,
because he's so good with a descriptive phrase. He can say a lot in a very few words and give you this sense of the environment or the situation he's trying to convey. He's really, really good at it, and it's one of the things that marks. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so down on DeCamp. It's one of the things that marks a Howard story from a story that has, say, for example, been augmented by DeCamp.
right,
You can tell the difference.
right.
DeCamp has his fans and he has a place, but he
I
and he
liked him better when he was writing his own stuff rather than mutilating Robert E. Howard's stuff.
exactly there are Robert E. Howard fans and there are Conan fans, and Conan fans don't seem to mind other authors getting into the mix. Robert E. Howard fans tend to be purists, and there's no right answer. Without DeCamp, there wouldn't be nearly as many Robert E. Howard fans as there are right now.
Right.
So, but what's interesting is he went out and bought up all the rights to. How did he end up controlling this? It was Weird Tales. He bought the rights the first run rights to all the Weird Tales magazines and ended up holding a lot of Conan rights.
Right.
And so when Dino De Laurentiis comes along, DeCamp's Conan is the Conan that gets made.
Right.
And from what I understand, they came after you to get some of those permissions back from you. And
They didn't want the possibility of having some kid from Vermont creating hassles down the road. So they
didn't,
were trying to assemble all the copyrights and that were out there because it was Glenn Lord, like I said, he gave the rights to put him on radio and record, to a 25-year-old kid or whatever it was, however old. Let's see, it was 1970. Well, 74 when I corresponded with him, so I was, yeah, 25.
mm, but I kind of have the impression I suppose it makes sense. We have this film coming out. We don't want anybody else raking money off our conveyor belt, or diffusing the product that we want to put out there with their product. But I gather they kind of lean pretty hard. Um, and I'm not really looking to throw shade so much as to express that regardless, I mean, you still to this day own the rights to these two albums. They're your productions.
Right.
Conan's
And
in.
I had it taken off the Internet Archive.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So,
Um,
and for your fans, I will be releasing the audio as soon as I get my shit together.
I hope that we'll see them available somewhere. Our Audible is a wonderful place. I
But I investigated Audible. You have to have a hard or a paperback that is being sold on Amazon, or not a book that's being sold
being
on
sold on
Amazon
Amazon.
for them to do the audiobook version of it. So
Ah,
I'm gonna have to investigate some of the other places that you referred me to.
very well. That's interesting because that's not always been the case, and I need to refresh my awareness of that situation because there are a half dozen literal Doctor Who TV episodes that have just been condensed into audiobooks and thrown on there. And yes, you can go buy a novelization of that from Amazon, but it's not the novel and the condensed television play are not the same thing.
Right.
I'll have to study that. That's kind of disheartening, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I just went to their homepage or whatever it was, and how do I submit things? And they came and I read that, and it says, "Oh well," you know, I didn't argue or I didn't call anybody up and say, "Hey, what about this?" You know,
I might be able to put you and Finn John in contact with each other because Finn is already in the business of publishing some of Howard's other material, and he might have space for you there. But I would say you're the person who knows what your best market is to start with. I'm happy to offer that, but I don't want to like throw your material to someone else who's doing that content until
right.
you've had a chance to look it over.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
but it's an option if you decide it's something you'd like to have done. I can put you and he in contact with each other. But
Okay. I'm not familiar with him at all. So,
it's very few. It's such a niche market these days. The possibilities for personal entertainment in any and all forms have just exploded. And Finn probably sells less than 100 books a year as a
okay.
result. He doesn't, he's doing Lovecraft, he's doing Burroughs, he's doing basically the whole parade of public domain. Lovecraft, Burroughs, oh gosh. He's doing Howard's Steve Costigan stories, which are just,
The Sailor Stories, I think they were.
yep, yep. Basically, they're boxing stories. And I
Right.
got to tell you, they are riveting, but they're not Conan.
Right.
I mean, but anyway, I think I'm tangenting, and I don't mean to. Um, we were Gosh, it's about 10:30 here, and I think I am running out of coffee is my issue.
Oh dear.
That's all right.
We don't have to do this whole interview in one fell swoop either. So if you're fading, we can
If-
continue it. I haven't eaten dinner yet, but
oh gosh, I don't mean to hold you from your dinner.
no, no, I'm generally a late eater, and I had a thing of yogurt right before this, so I'm fine, but
So I
I don't know if I'd want to go on for 2 hours plus or anything like that.
no, I think I've got a good 10 minutes left in me, and
Oh, okay, good.
I'm really very grateful to have the rights, the permission from you
You
to
do.
play this maybe once, twice a year to my listeners and to continue to draw people in to Howard and pulp literature on the whole. I think it's fascinating just, and I'll have to put it together. Maybe I'll write out a, a diagram so that I can, the next time you and I have a chance to talk, we can run through it together and perfect it. But um, you acquired the rights, produced the album, and then were, shall we say, pursued to return the rights. I don't know what they offered you in exchange, but even after those rights reverted from you to someone else, if they have, um, you still own the album, the material. That interpretation of the material is not in the public domain just because
Right.
Robert E. Howard and his works are in the public domain now.
This
It's
is
yours.
my version of it,
Right,
of my interpretation. And one of the things I remember in the exchange between myself and Conan Properties was again, being a stupid kid, said, don't you dare use any of my characterizations or whatever, I'll sue you. And one thing I learned after the fact is never threaten an attorney that you're going to sue him.
right, right.
So,
It's I hear horror stories from people in the comic book industry about the Burroughs estate, and I absolutely believe that Conan Properties could be that bad under the right circumstances, or that aggressive, let's say. Good or bad is kind of subjective when you're talking about who something belongs to.
right.
But I think also that you these rights you have for like something like another 45 years, actually. Um, and you're fortunately in that window after 1971, because very few people realize all spoken word productions before 1971 are in the public domain. So your timing is perfect.
It was an accident.
But and we couldn't possibly play these. I mean, a lot of people do. YouTube is where people go to study copyright infringement. Uh, um, but we couldn't possibly legitimately offer this to our listeners without your kind permission, and
No, you have my permission. Yes.
we are very grateful for that. And I hope to have a link from you soon that we can post on our website where people who hear it can go and purchase it from you. Um, and obviously keep us posted on how that's coming along because we would really love to set that up.
Yeah, I've got to figure out a way to do it. I mean, do I want to sell streams of it? Do I want to sell CDs of it? In some ways, CDs would be much easier. And uh, whatever, I could control it. And
There's a neat nostalgia vibe that comes with CDs. Because I mean I literally sell, or these days I give them away. We have program samplers, and we had the CDs printed to look like 45s. So it looks like a record album, and it was a neat gimmick. It did very well for a while. Um, but these days nobody has a CD player. or nobody uses their CD player anymore,
Right.
unless it's a nostalgia thing. Because back in the day, I would buy the old Arch Oboler tapes, pop the cassettes in, and listen to Lights Out. Nobody has a cassette player anymore, but
Exactly.
tapes are nostalgic. So,
Yeah.
um,
I understand cassettes are beginning to make a comeback.
I there was never anything wrong with eight tracks. Eight tracks were
Yes, there
fantastic.
were.
Uh, let's rephrase that. There was nothing wrong with the medium. The engineering surrounding the medium always left something to be.
The bad part about eight tracks is, the kachunka as it was changing tracks. And
Right.
you would play what, three or four songs and then go kachunka and move on to the next track. And depending on who mastered it, sometimes if it was a really long song, the kachunka came in the middle of a song. And
Right.
s- and well, my experience with eight tracks is driving a cross country in a Volkswagen bus. This is 1970 with my college roommate and a dog and all sorts of nefarious stuff. And having an eight-track player, with about seven tapes, and that was it. So we listened to that over and over and over again. So
It
I
was
still name some of the tapes.
it was as a kid of the 70s, it was my first format. And you never forget your first format.
That's true.
Um, and what I've come to learn over the years is vinyl's kind of final. Nothing sounds, no matter how good the sound quality is, nothing sounds as good played as good old-fashioned vinyl. But I do miss my eight tracks. Ah,
Okay. I'm a big fan of CDs, so properly mastered CDs.
very good. I tell you what I will do. When I dig them out, we're taking a few convention goodies when we do this year's Comic-Con cruise. And when I dig out the convention goodies, I will send you a couple of our CDs that we produce. We have one that's all horror and one that is basically a sample show with various and sundry things, including the first episode of the old 1975 Fantastic Four radio show.
Oh, I have that record.
That's a fantastic record, and I've met Bill Murray, and I am probably the only living person who's turned to Bill Murray and said, "All you need to know about me is I can't believe how cool it is that the original Human Torch has a Volkswagen Thing parked in his driveway." He turned to me and said, "Nobody has ever said that to me before." Um, so yeah, we I think we run one of those. We run uh oh, which one is it? I think it's Green Hills of Earth from X minus one and something else on it. But I will send them along to you when I dig them out.
I've got some Lovecraft records too, and God, what else was there? Harlan Ellison, his stuff that he narrated.
I'm terrified to play anything with Harlan's voice or by Harlan ever. I believe the man would come back from the grave to rip my arms off if I played his stuff. It's just
I understand why you would think that, but he did put it out on record, so
yeah, yeah. And one of my all-time favorite things in print is Paladin the Lost Hour. It's a beautiful story by Ellison, and it's not particularly science. Some of my favorite science fiction isn't science fiction, and that's
well, he called it speculative fiction.
yep, yep. We actually refer to it as speculative fiction quite a lot. This concept that science fiction is and always has been for children. Um, and there's some guilt there, but I defy you to read the Green Hills of Earth and say this is something a kid's gonna get,
Yep.
or A Pail of Air by Fritz Leiber. Have you read that?
I, not that I know of.
Fritz is of course best known for um, he's kind of the generation after Lovecraft and Howard, Fafford and the Gray Mouser. But
Right.
he wrote some science fiction that is just astonishingly good. And A Pail of Air is this neat story about living in a post-apocalyptic world where there's no sunlight. Everything is, even the oxygen is freezing, and these people are surviving by going out and collecting chunks of frozen air, putting them in a pot over a coal fire, and the air is melting and feeding the fire and providing oxygen while the coal
Huh.
burns. And it's just a fantastic story that uses some real science to tell it just a really neat, emotionally driven tale. But anyway, neither here nor there. All that's getting cut out. I apologize. I do tend to ramble. I have had a fantastic time again talking with you, and I think I'll probably head for bed, and you should go get some dinner. But I look forward to another conversation just like this one day soon.
That'll, that's fine. That'll be great.
Either
All right.
way, what we piece together for the Conan show will be on Friday the 26th. I have I can't send copies of the show because of digital copyright issues with music, but I have already promised to edit uh, an expurgated version, and I will email you a link to that when it's all done so that if you don't have the opportunity to listen in live, you can hear what we've done.
Okay. Do you have a time yet when it's going to air?
It's going to air at 8 p.m. our time, which would be 5 your time, on the 26th
Okay. I'll put
at
it on the calendar.
radiophantomstar.net is the
Right.
website.
Right. Cool.
And on that note, I want you to have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much. You've been more than kind and generous. And I hope we talk soon.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night. Bye bye.